Welcome to Negocios with BISILA BOKOKO. I'm super happy because here we have with us Chef Walter Potenza, and we're going to speak about food, about culinary school, and also health, because he just take care of many things. He has many heads, and he's going to just have a great talk with us about this today. But before we do that, I would like to welcome you here today.
Thank you, BISILA. Thank you. It's great meeting you.
So Chef Walter, tell us about your background and your love affair with cooking.
I've had an interesting childhood. I grew up in Central Eastern Italy, in a modest family, but I was pretty much a lousy student, and I wasn't able to just get going. I played soccer, and I eventually ended up playing pro soccer here in the United States. It was in the summer of 72 where I had been ejected from school for misbehaving. And my mom suggested that it would be a good idea for me to spend 6 months here in the United States where we had some relatives. I came here to Manhattan to see my aunt, and I could not seem to get started. I missed home. Eventually, I ended up with a minor job here in a lamp factory, and that experience did not work out well. Moved to Rhode Island, where some other family members had restaurants, and I began washing dishes with them.
Wow.
So I was at my first year in, my first year in college in Italy, and I came here and began all over again. Eventually, I wanted to transition into other careers, perhaps in teaching. Went back to college here, became a professor of Western civilization.
Wow.
But somehow the money that I was earning was not sufficient, and I remained in the kitchen. Then one morning I got up and I said, I'm going to decide to do this professionally. And I became a scholar of the trade.
Wow.
I began taking professional development courses, never went to culinary school, but my passion for history through food was important for me to stay within the trade.
Beautiful. Before that, I go into the next question. There is something that really I feel that is remarkable that you said, and is that you were a lousy student, but then you outgrown this love for education. How this happened? What do you think that makes the switch?
I found that every time I spoke to someone while I was working in a restaurant, I could not seem to understand how the native American people thought about food and how they looked at food. That was completely different than what I was used to. And I felt that it's a new nation, so to speak. And if people don't spend time in educating others in the proper sense of the word, not because people are ignoring some of the themes, some of the things of other cultures. But I also realized that America was a country taken for themselves. Americans did not have at the time, I'm talking about the 70s, a particular interest about other nations. Yes, they understood what some things were, but the classification of the American people was such that the majority ignored the food, the lifestyle, the tradition, the religion of other nations. They were into themselves. And I thought that it is through education that you share your values. And this country is made up of hundreds of different cultures, and every one of us have a business card to offer to Americans, which is take a look at my culture, and maybe there are some things there that could be of value to your own life, And so I
Beautiful.
began this quest of educating and eventually opening the cooking school.
Mhm. And what you would say that is the role of Italian cuisine in the US? Why is it so popular?
I think Italian cuisine has to be classified in couple groupings. There is the cucina italiana, the Italian cuisine, which is the cuisine of the country of Italy, primarily of the 20 region that composes the country.
Mhm.
And it's, of course, different from north to south. And because through historical invasions and other political issues, every region has its own spectacle, its own authority, its own character. Italians argue about two things primarily: the difference in food and soccer teams. And so then there is the American Italian cuisine, which is the cuisine of the immigration, which was developed post 1861, when the Italians began to arrive here in major numbers. And that cuisine has minimal reflection on the original cuisine of Italy. What I mean by that is that the authenticity of Italian food in Italy was lost through the translation, living in this country, not having all the ingredients available in the Mediterranean basin, which is primarily seafood, produce, and grain. Coming here and not having all of those goodies prompted the Italian immigrants to sort of reshape the Italian food. And
Oh.
what we have is a cuisine that is great in history at its own value, but it does not resemble the Italian food in Italy, specifically in one instance where Italians do not put more than 4 ingredients in one plate. American Italians classify food here based on quantity and how it can be justified in terms of amount. And
Mhm.
so it became popular in this country, Italian food, just because of that, because of
Mm.
some old flavors, reminiscent of Italy, but mostly because of its quantity. It's popular because it reaches the mass, because tomato sauce is fundamentally a sauce that everybody loves. And
Mhm.
then there is the mystique that all Italians, rather all Americans, fall in love with the mystique of Italy. They love the country, so they love it through food.
That's great. That's great. And tell us more about the culinary school and how do you contribute to education in the schools too?
The school started in 1995 out of a necessity, again, because I've owned about 12 restaurants, and in many of them, I could not sell the food that was truly authentic and representative of Italy. And so I began having these private classes at night, sort of to share with the participants these different flavors, these different values, hoping that I could convert some of them in understanding these original and authentic flavors. And I've succeeded in that. Through the years, I've expanded the concept to children, especially because I'm a big believer that we will never be a nation of healthy people if we don't begin with a nutrition program at a lower level. And so we ran, and we still do, several summer camps where
Mhm.
children stay with me about 5 days to cook from beginning to the end, from Monday to Friday, for all aspects of nutrition and as well as ingredients. And of course, through the years, we were able to gather more and more participants. Today, I must say, has been a very successful idea, and one that I have duplicated in Dubai and Beijing, and of course, throughout all the regions of Italy, where we bring American consumers to cook with us for a 7-day period.
Oh, that's so much fun. And tell us about the importance of history in food.
Well, I believe that a chef, technically speaking, is equivalent to the next one. If you and I work together, BISILA, for about 90 days, you will cook just like me, or better. The point is, can you do it forever? Meaning that it is a history, geography, territory, the knowledge of other countries, but most of all, studying ingredients that makes you a better chef. One that is a level of superiority in terms of knowledge, not so much techniques. Making pasta, we'll do it for 3-4 weeks, we'll become very good at that. But can we do it forever with our history? And so to me, history is the fuel behind everything that we do, especially because connecting food of today to the past gives you a sense of how food has evolved, where we have gone, and where we're going to be tomorrow. It's history, geography, and territory, but most of all, agriculture. Those are fundamental in the development of a chef, and to stay and to enjoy what you do has helped me a great deal, and I'm sure it will work for others as well.
Yeah, that's a really important point that you raise here. And also this connects with health and wellness, where I know that you are very involved. And talking about that, what do you think about the Mediterranean diet? And what is the Mediterranean diet exactly from your perspective?
Well, to me, is I had to make some health modification in the past. As I said, I became a diabetic type 2 out of the blue. Wow. I was, just like millions of others, victim of the American diet. Living under stress in a country that is constantly taken by sort of not emotions, but as I say, an economic engine. And very often what I did, I was very concerned about essentially being in business, they're doing well, that I forgot that without my body, I wasn't going to be able to do that. Became diabetic, and that began this quest of going back home, so to speak, in terms of where I grew up, how my mother cooked for me, and the essential ingredients that we needed to live well. So Mediterranean diet, to me, is nothing more a category, a level of ingredients which you need to choose carefully, not so much following the Mediterranean pyramid, but what we grew up with, which is essentially a cuisine based on a lot of seafood, a lot of good vegetables, a lot of grains, some good breads, and in the last portion, on the bottom of the scale, the consumption of protein, meat protein, that is. This is, in this country, however, a culture that does the reverse. We consume a lot more meat protein than we consume grain. And so that will always be an issue in terms of health. And unless we all together, people that are food educated, decide to convert others, or at least to show them how a good Mediterranean diet can be implemented. It is not Mediterranean diet. It is not a, how should I say, a complicated change. It's a mindset, which essentially is pick the right ingredients, buy carefully, enjoy good food, don't work it too much, work it minimally, and be jealous of your stomach. You just have to take care of yourself. That's all.
That's right. And you also work, of course, with celiac disease and diabetes. And you might have some tips to share for people who have the same problem, because nowadays we hear so much people getting into these problems, and it must be a reason why.
Well, yeah, celiac started about 25 years ago to be prominent here in our culture, and I think is in part related to our manufacturing restructuring of the food. What we did there in the 60s and the 70s, we began planting much more soybean. We began using a lot more fructose. We began using ingredients that increase the yield of the product, especially with wheat. And what we did, we have essentially redesigned the structure of the wheat in America. That has begun to affect our intestine. This is not something that America had in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, where there was a very little consumption of wheat. And so, with the wealth coming after the post wars, America enjoyed the bread, but bread had its own transformation among the manufacturing company. Essentially, we did a bad job in modifying the bread structure, the wheat structure, I should say. And that created the celiac movement, a disease that inflames the inside of the lining of your intestines and makes it very painful and uncomfortable. So we need to sort of to go back a little bit. Do not modify the food as much. Go back to black bread, all natural flours, and without additives. We need to do that because it is the response in protecting our intestine, especially with future generation. As far as the diabetes is one that it's affecting the world, and it's almost in its entirety, but especially Americans. Americans do not understand the consumption of starches. And it goes back, the diabetes and celiacs are connected together. So my suggestion is, if you're celiac, of course, buy ingredients of high quality, buy wheat that has not been restructured and remodified. Unfortunately, it costs a little bit more, but do that for yourself. You can live a happy life. Always look for ingredients and read the label, which is most importantly, making sure that you understand the, the actual wordage, because that's a lot of people don't know the chemical names or terms for specific ingredients. If you're diabetic, please go back home and begin cooking for yourself. Buy food naturally, cook it minimally, enjoy great olive oil. Do not overdo any cooking, but remember, cooking for yourself gives you the opportunity to maintain the amount that you ingest, and it gives you control of your overall flavor. So those are the only things that I can suggest. More people should go back home, and I know it's hard to do, and begin researching all recipes. Work like the old people did years ago, where all of these ailments were not around. So we can do it. It's not really science. It's just a state of mind and a life change, a little bit of a lifestyle change. That's all.
And what trends do you see coming? Because of course there is many trends, but from your perspective, what are the real trends that are going to stay, and where do you see the food movement going?
I think the 2022 will bring us an explosion of, should I say, protein, which are connected to legumes. I see chickpeas as the #1 ingredient that's going to climb on a ladder. Many products are going to be created with chickpea as a foundation. I see lentils, fava beans, any ingredients that come from the earth, which are especially in diabetic, have a lower glycemic index number, and they would help also people with the celiac disease. I see more and more of an immersion in understanding other foods, specifically the Scandinavian cuisine. Countries like Finland, Norway, and Sweden may be enjoying a little bit of notoriety. I also see the Middle Eastern cuisine as being even more dominant than it is because of its amount of wheat that they consume. And I think lastly, we will see a growth in North African cuisine, including your beloved Spain, which has always been there. Spanish cuisine, the cuisine of the Iberian Peninsula, it's a segment all of its own. And the two countries together, that peninsula has done so much for the world in terms of the voyages, and how they both countries have touched many parts of the world, just like Italy.
Well, Chef Walter, thank you so much. You leave us with a great taste, particularly speaking about the Iberian cuisine. I'm sure that our audience in Spain is going to be very happy to hear that. And it's a way to encourage to continue to promote what is good food, real food. So thank you so much.
Thanks, BISILA, for having me. Wish you the best, and always eat well. And if you're on occasion tonight, keep your eyes on the fire. Ciao, ciao.
Definitely. And I will definitely see when you have a cooking class next time, because I like that I will cook like you if I spend 90 days with you.
You can do a better job than me in no time. Well,
thank you, Chef Walter.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. A pleasure. Bye-bye.